Glasgow is a city with grit in its bones. Known for its working class pride, shipbuilding legacy, and fierce football rivalry, Glasgow has always worn its toughness like a badge of honor. But beneath the charm and resilience of this historic city lies a hidden world, a world of fear, loyalty, money, and murder. While the media often focuses on London or Liverpool when discussing organized crime, few talk about what really goes on in Scotland's underworld. But make no mistake, Glasgow has its own mafia, and it is still very much alive today. For decades, the image of the Glasgow gangster has been shaped by fiction and folklore, men in tracksuits, pit bull dogs, and a baseball bat in the boot of the car. But the reality is far more sophisticated and far more dangerous. What was once seen as casual street crime has evolved into a structured criminal network. This is Scotland's forgotten mafia. To understand how Glasgow reached this point, we need to go back. The city's underworld did not appear overnight. It was born from poverty, violence, and a culture where you took what you could, however you could. In the post-war years, areas like the Gorbals and Postle Park became synonymous with razor gangs and street fights. These early groups were less about money and more about territory and pride, but the seeds of modern Gangland Glasgow were already being planted. By the 1970s and 1980s, the landscape began to change. Drugs arrived, heroin flooded the city, and suddenly the game shifted from fighting over respect to fighting over profits. Local hardmen became drug dealers. Turf wars were no longer just about street corners, they were about distribution routes, safe houses, and corrupt connections inside law enforcement. And just like that, Glasgow's gangs turned into organized crime groups. One of the most feared figures in modern Glasgow crime history is Walter Norval. Though not as publicly known as crime bosses in England or Ireland, his influence behind the scenes was immense. His name carried weight. Norval and others like him created structures within the chaos, setting up networks that span not just Scotland, but the entire UK. But what truly makes Glasgow's mafia unique is its combination of old-school brutality and modern-day operations. It is not unusual to find a gang member who runs a legitimate business by day and handles cocaine shipments by night. These are not cartoonish villains. They are businessmen with blood on their hands. One of the most infamous groups to emerge in recent years is the Lyons crime family. Based in Postle Park, they built an empire through drug trafficking, extortion, and violent enforcement. Their rivals, the Daniels crime family, a long-standing criminal clan rooted in the same city. What began as tension between two crew escalated into a full-scale gangland war that has lasted more than a decade. This war has turned parts of Glasgow into war zones. Drive-by shootings, grenade attacks, and brutal stabbings have all been linked to the feud. And like any mafia conflict, innocent lives have been caught in the crossfire. In 2017, a man named Jamie Lee was gunned down in a playground in front of children. The violence was not just targeted, it was theatrical. It sent a message: no one is untouchable. Police know about the feud. They have tried to break the cycle through high-profile arrests and surveillance operations. But every time one figure falls, another rises. And just like in Italy or Mexico, the silence in these communities is deafening. Witnesses fear speaking up. Some have gone missing. Others have been intimidated into silence. The code of the street is stronger than any legal system. It is easy to think this is just Glasgow's problem, but the reach of these crime families extends far beyond Scotland. Drug routes connect Glasgow to Liverpool, London, Amsterdam, and even Dubai. Shipments are coordinated across borders. Profits are laundered through front companies, gambling networks, and real estate deals. Scotland may be small on the map, but its criminals think globally. What is even more disturbing is how deeply this mafia has embedded itself into the city's social fabric. In some housing schemes, gang members are seen as local heroes. They provide money protection and a sense of belonging that many youths lack. They hand out cash at funerals, sponsor local events, and even settle disputes in the absence of real authority. To some, they are not criminals, they are role models. And that is where the real danger lies, because when organized crime becomes normalized, it becomes invisible. It hides in plain sight. Glasgow's mafia does not need to wear gold chains or drive flashy cars. They operate quietly with discipline and calculation, and they are not afraid to kill when loyalty is questioned. In recent years, authorities have stepped up their efforts. The Scottish Crime Campus in Gartcoach was established to bring together police, customs, intelligence services, and forensic teams. Their goal is simple: disrupt and dismantle organized crime networks before they take deeper root. But it is a difficult task. These gangs are not just hiding drugs, they are hiding in society. One major blow to the criminal underworld came with the rise of encrypted communications. Tools like EncroChat were once used by criminals to plan operations without fear of interception. But in 2020, authorities cracked EncroChat, exposing thousands of messages between gangsters across Europe. Dozens of Glasgow-based criminals were caught in the dragnet. Plots to import cocaine, arrange hits, and extort rivals were uncovered in graphic detail. Still, for every gang member taken down, another steps in. The structure is flexible, it adapts, and with every headline arrest, the real puppet masters often remain hidden. One particularly brutal case that exposed the scale of Glasgow's mafia was the murder of Ewan Johnston in 2016. Johnston was shot at point blank range while sitting in his Audi. The killing was linked to a power struggle within the underworld and bore all the signs of a professional hit. Bulletproof vests, mobile jammers, and counter-surveillance were reportedly used. This was not random violence. This was a Mafia-level execution. The war between the Lyons and Daniels crews continues to rage beneath the surface. Recently, there have been links between Scottish gangsters and Albanian crime syndicates, showing a clear shift toward international collaboration. Glasgow is no longer just a city dealing with its own criminal problems. It is a hub in a wider web of global crime. And yet many still do not believe that Scotland has a mafia. They see the term as something foreign, something that happens in movies or in other countries. But when you have organized families, long-standing feuds, structured operations, a code of silence, and global connections, you have a mafia. The only difference is that it has a Scottish accent. The public often asks, why is this still happening? Why have these gangs not been wiped out? The truth is that organized crime thrives in places where people feel powerless. In communities where poverty is high, schools are underfunded, and opportunities are limited, young people will always be vulnerable to recruitment. They do not join gangs because they are evil. They join because they want money, respect, and purpose. And the Mafia offers all three. Until those root issues are addressed, arrests will only act as temporary solutions. This is not just a law enforcement issue, it is a social one, and solving it requires more than just sweat teams and courtrooms. It requires education, investment, and alternatives. Because once someone gets involved in this world, getting out becomes a matter of life and death. In many ways, the Glasgow Mafia has succeeded because it has stayed in the shadows. While the media focuses on flashy busts in London or dramatic trials in Ireland, Scotland's criminal elite have continued to operate with quiet precision. But the silence is starting to break. There is a growing number of journalists, activists, and former gang members speaking out. People who have seen the damage firsthand and want a better future for their city. They know that the first step to change is telling the truth. And the truth is that Glasgow has a mafia. It has had one for decades. And unless we face it head on, it will only grow stronger. So next time you hear about a stabbing in the East End or a drug bust in Postle Park, understand that it is not just another news story. It is part of a larger machine. A machine that trades in blood, fear, and silence. But it is also a machine that can be dismantled. Piece by piece, lie by lie, life by life. This has been the real story of Gangland Glasgow, Scotland's forgotten mafia, still thriving, still deadly, and still waiting in the shadows.